Title IX, just want to take a second or two to talk about Title IX. A little bit later, Stuart and I are going to be able to go, hopefully, if we have time, and go see your softball team, which I know has a national championship in the last year and a half under its belt, and certainly great pride for all of you. If there were no Title IX, you would not have a softball team. If there were no Title IX, you would have never heard of Mia Hamm or Abby Wambach. You would never, Missy Franklin, the great swimming star, who's going to be the #1 name, assuming she's healthy, going into the Rio Olympics in 2016. Missy Franklin, the great swimmer from Denver, now a Cal Berkeley undergrad. Missy Franklin would be done swimming if there were no Title IX, because every swimmer that talks about from the 60s, young women, women at the time, once they got to be high school and graduating from high school, they were done, because there were no college programs for them to go to. And even with Missy Franklin, she'll turn pro in a year or two, but she's able to swim in college and stay on top of her game in that way with her peers while also getting an education, no small feat. And then she continues to go on. So Title IX is one of those things that you hear people criticize. Signed by Richard Nixon, June 23rd, 1972, changed the playing fields of America. Obviously, diversity, it goes without saying, opening up the floodgates for girls to join their brothers on the playing fields of America. I believe that it's the most important law in our country over the last 41 years. I know that's saying a lot, but when you think about it, just for a moment, for generations, well before your time, we were telling 51% of our nation, 51%, whatever girls and women are in our population, we were telling that big, huge chunk of the American population, no. You cannot learn about winning, you cannot learn about losing, which is much more important, at a young age. You cannot learn about teamwork, you cannot learn about sportsmanship. You cannot learn those life lessons that make us all not only better people, but make our country better. The United States of America is stronger because of Title IX, because those girls that are growing up on those playing fields become better, stronger women, whether they're going to be moms, doctors, lawyers, whether they're going to serve our nation in the military, whatever they're going to be, they're going to be better at it because they played sports and learned those life lessons at a young age. It's not about creating, if we create Olympians, great. Create great college athletes, student athletes like here at Alabama and around the country, that's great. Create pro athletes, sure, every now and then one of them will make it to the WNBA or whatever it might be. But really it's about creating better people. And I really think that the next 10, 15, 20 years, in the 20s in this country, in the 30s, and moving forward, we will have women running for president on the Republican side, on the Democratic side, whatever parties we have. We will have women presidential candidates for the major tickets, choosing women as vice presidential candidates. I'll bet in the next 30 years we will have a female Republican presidential and vice presidential candidate running against a female presidential candidate for the Democrats, with her running mate also being a woman in the next 30 years. I'll bet that's the case. I know it must sound strange to hear that, but the reason I'm saying it, taking that right back to Title IX, the common denominator for all those women, say 30 years from now, who are basically your age, one of them may be in this room, the common denominator for all of those candidates that I am imagining, all of them women running for this, and then being president 4 years later, and then another woman running for president 4 years after that, and on and on and on. Maybe they'll let men run again, I don't know. But the common denominator for all of them will be that they played sports because of Title IX. There's no doubt in my mind. Millions and millions of girls are playing sports in this country. Generation and a half ago, I was the biggest jock in my little part of Toledo, Ohio. I played baseball with the boys. My mom joked I was born size 6X and kept right on growing. I'm 5'11" and a half now. I knew how to hold a baseball bat the moment I held it. I never threw like a girl. By the way, can we retire that term? Because it's a compliment now, because all you girls know how to do it. But I knew how, my dad taught me how to fire the ball behind, cock my arm behind my ear and fire the ball. I played tennis starting in 4th grade. And I would ask you, you don't necessarily have to shout out, but just a guess of how many organized teams I played on. I would have been one of those girls taking off my jersey from soccer in the back seat, like many of you probably did, and put on the lacrosse shirt or the softball shirt, or go from swimming to tennis or whatever. How many organized teams I played on before my freshman year of high school? The biggest jock maybe in Ohio, one of the biggest in the country, is a 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old. How many organized teams I played on before freshman year of high school? 0. And now when I ask that question, maybe some of you can think about it, I'll bet you it's 20, 30, 40. T-ball, little little run-around soccer. So, ladies and gentlemen, in one generation, a generation and a half in our country, everything has changed. Me, zero. You guys, dozens of teams that your dads coached, your moms, little rec basketball, whatever. I'm talking about every team. We had nothing. Then when I got to high school, I was a six-sport athlete in high school, the senior athlete of the year, and played everything. Couldn't get enough of it. Tennis and field hockey, basketball, volleyball, softball, track and field, literally running sometimes between one game and another, tennis first doubles to the field hockey game, because I was just craving sports. And we didn't know what we didn't have, so it sounds sad. It's okay, because you have it. You have it now. And what our nation has given you with this law, and yes, it's a law, and some people have called it a quota. Don't pay any attention to that. It's fantastic. Athletic directors needed to make some decisions. They didn't, and finally parents got sick and tired and said, we've got to do something about it. Parents like your parents. So it's fantastic. And yes, there are issues. And yes, some men's Olympic sports, men's so-called minor sports have been cut. No one wants that. But those were decisions by athletic directors who dragged their feet for 40 years. Title IX didn't show up 41 days ago, 41 hours ago, 41 weeks ago, 41 months ago. It's been 41 years. An athletic director who hasn't figured that out yet is an incompetent athletic director. And thankfully, they've all pretty much figured it out by now. So obviously, as you can see, I'm a little bit of a fan of Title IX. So anyway, but I think that's clearly an issue where sports has led the way in so many ways for girls and women.